What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Average Joe Sports Podcast. As always, your host, Don. Got my boy with me, Albert. What's up, my man? How you doing? You ready? You ready to rock?
Doing great. Ready to rock and roll, baby. Let's go.
Absolutely. We got a lot to talk about, just like every week. Obviously, this week with the MLB All-Star week happening, baseball is definitely front and center for us this week. So let's start off with some baseball. Last night, probably one of the most popular events of the All-Star week for baseball, Home Run Derby happened, and it didn't disappoint. We had some older stars, and Albert Pujols was surprising some folks with the amount of home runs that he was able to produce, or the lack thereof for his opponent. So we'll get to that. And then we have some younger studs, right? Julio Rodriguez putting on the show, definitely with 81 total home runs. Let's start off with the Home Run Derby. Now that we know that it's in the books, Julio Rodriguez put on a show, but ultimately Juan Soto did overcome and win and prevailed in the end with 19 home runs in the final versus the 18 that Julio Rodriguez put up. What were your thoughts on the Home Run Derby? Did you watch it? Were you entertained? Were you surprised at all?
Yeah, I wasn't really looking forward to the Home Run Derby, but every time when I watch it, I just get captivated by it, and I just you start cheering for them and stuff. I was going to ask you this. What do you look forward to? What do you like more, the dunk contest or the Home Run Derby? I think I like the Home Run Derby, man, which is wild. Yeah, I love basketball and I love the flash, but the way it plays out, the drama in the Derby is a little more exciting.
Yeah, I think in recent days, I definitely think I have to go with Home Run Derby. I think the Home Run Derby has progressively gotten better with the addition of, it used to be the amount of swings. I love the time limit. I love the timeout.
Oh yeah,
me too. I love the different iterations to make it better. I think the dunk contest has kind of gotten watered down with just the style or the creativity, and then also just the participants. They've been struggling to get great participants. So definitely Home Run Derby, man. That's
Home Run Derby. You got the best of the best. Usually, the best home run hitters. They want to participate in that. With dunking, you don't get the LeBron James, the Aaron Gordons anymore. Zach Levine, he was in it once, but isn't coming back to defend his trophy. But you see guys like Pete Alonso, who took it serious, man. You see how serious he is. He lives for the Home Run Derby. Right. It was cool, man. I like it. My only rift with it is I don't like the bracket thing. If it was just all 8 swing and top 4 advances, someone could hit 30 and then someone could hit the second most with 29, and he gets eliminated just because he's paired up with the 30 guy. So I would go with the top 4 and then top 2 advance the next round. That's my suggestion to make it better. But man, Home Run Derby's cool, man. I don't know. I never really want to see it and look forward to seeing it, but I always catch myself kind of leaning in a little bit more. Julio looked good.
Julio Rodriguez, definitely the launch angle. He was just from the beginning, right? I think he had 62 home runs in the first 2 rounds, something crazy like that.
He's so quick to the ball, man. He really flicks his wrist, and the pitcher too. His pitcher was just serving up frisbees. I don't know if you watched it that much, but his pitcher stole the show for me. He was just
his pitcher was great. I think he probably took over GOAT right, at least for the night, GOAT rights for Alonso's pitcher, right? A pitcher that was trash for me was fucking Ronald Acuna's pitcher. He was garbage. I don't know if you've seen Ronald Acuna's first. He was throwing low and away. Or Ronald Acuna was trying to pull it. I don't know. It was tough. It was tough. But yeah, man, I think it was an exciting event. I like the dynamics of having, the older star, and Albert Pujols was there. What did you think? So obviously there's probably not any conspiracy, or there's not any, weight behind it, but Albert Pujols' opponents just seemed like they couldn't get it together, right? Kyle Schwarber, he struggled, mightily.
Kyle Schwarber,
he was a second favorite. He was a second favorite.
Yeah, he barely lost to the last time he had, I think he had maybe the most home runs last time he participated, but he just got outdueled in the last round or something like that.
He was basically Julio Rodriguez.
But yeah, Pujols, man, Yeah, he didn't have any he didn't have those 30-second 1 minute extra bonuses because he wasn't hitting them 440 plus, but
Right.
he was kind of swinging away and just getting them over the fence, man, and kind of conserving his energy. It seems like, but yeah, that's old man Pujols, old Theo
Yeah,
Pujols, as Dodger fans call him.
he did what he had to do, man. His opponent struggled, but he surprised me. He did. I mean, he wasn't hitting 20 plus home runs, but I mean, he wasn't up there hitting 5 or 6 or 7, right? I mean, I think at one of the rounds he got 16 or whatever it was. But I mean, for what it was worth, he put on a show. It was exciting to see Pujols out there. Exciting to see obviously some other things happen, like Corey Seager back at Dodger Stadium. He had a nice little run. Obviously, he was eliminated, but he had a nice run. Yeah, it was just a great event. I think
Bad Bunny was out there.
Yeah, Bad Bunny for the softball game. Definitely tired of seeing pictures and videos of him everywhere on social media.
He was presenting the trophy and everything too. So
right,
that was cool.
I seen him get off
cool event.
I seen him get off the chain to Juan Soto at the end of the game or the end of the contest.
I think it should have done it at night too, like with fireworks, bro. Like make it a theatrical event, bro. Like I just thought of that right now. During the day, why not at night?
They're trying to get the ball to carry. I mean, that's the only once it gets later into the night. Obviously, fewer home runs. You have the wind and whatnot. But yeah, all in all, I think it was a great event. Obviously, Juan Soto, freakish athlete, in which we'll get into in a second. He obviously won. He just got on that hot streak in the final. Just doubling down, obviously tonight we have the All-Star game, but let's talk about the players that are not going to be there. Who are your pitcher and your hitter or players that you expected to be there that are not there?
One guy that sticks out, a couple guys that sticks out. We talked about beforehand is Dylan Cease. He was actually both of our Cy Young candidate going into the season. Don't want to toot my own horn, but we both had him nailed down. Even though he made the All-Star, he should have made the All-Stars. 2.3 ERA, leads the league in strikeout per inning with 13.1. Or sorry, strikeouts per 9.
Strikeout per 9. Yep.
But yeah, he should have made it. I think so. He's a baller. His team's not off to the hottest start, or he's not carrying them to a first place team, so kind of get left behind. But I think he should have made it. Dude's a baller. And then my next guy is Will Smith, my boy. He is definitely hands and head above the competition and catching, except for Contreras. I think he's probably a little better than him. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the guy that made it in front of him was Denard. He is good, but man, Will Smith just wipes him out in pretty much every advanced category or even regular category that you can think of. And he's playing at home. So I think last year he didn't get picked too. I think he should got picked. I don't see why he's not being picked to these games. But we all know, All-Star games kind of fan voted. But they're just lucky. I don't think this is part of the baseball's negotiations. But in basketball, All-Stars and All Pros or whatever, they're a part of contract negotiations. And if you have a certain amount of All-Stars or all NBA or first team, second team, you go to the max, the super max, and you make 60, 80 million more than your regular players. That's why you get players like Russell Westbrook making that big of a contract, and it's wild. I don't think baseball's that case, but
no, I think I think we both love those two guys, right? As you mentioned, Dylan Cease, we had him as our Cy Young for the American League. Joking around with some of in the other league, fantasy guys. Dylan Cease is great. The only area that he needs to improve on is walks per 9. He leads the league in walks, and I think the issue, and I agree, Dylan Cease, Will Smith should have been All-Stars. The only thing that probably didn't get them there is that they've been extremely hot as of late, and the voting kind of already happened. Will Smith, I think he brought up his average about 10 or 15 points in the last week or two. I mean, he's been on fire, but obviously the voting is already, it's already cemented. But both of those guys should be in there. Dylan Cease, like you mentioned, 94 ERA in the low 2s, leads the league in Ks. He's just been phenomenal. Another guy that's kind of, been on the radar is Josh Bell of the Washington Nationals. One of the reasons why somebody would be reluctant to take Juan Soto #1 overall because he doesn't have the protection, doesn't have Trey Turner. He doesn't have, obviously Rendon from years ago, but he doesn't have that protection. But Josh Bell has been proving people wrong as somewhat in trying to protect, Juan Soto from people walking him every single time. He's batting .311. He's walking a ton too. His on base percentage is almost 400. So Josh Bell is certainly another player that could have potentially been an all-star as well. And then I had obviously Dylan Cease. So yeah, those are some guys that definitely should have been there.
Ty France, another first baseman with the Mariners.
Yep.
I think the first baseman. Yeah, he
yeah.
killed it too.
So yeah, with that being said, what do you think about MLB in terms of have they done everything to? I guess let me start off with this: the MLB, have they done everything to promote the sport and the MLB All-Star Week? And let me piggyback on the video that I posted on our page. I believe it was yesterday. I think the MLB is doing better things to understand that this is the singular moment, or this is the period of time in the year in which they have everyone's attention, right? Maybe people aren't watching the All-Star game as much, but they're gravitating to the home run derby. It's flashy. As you mentioned earlier, it's the closest thing to the dunk contest in terms of, sport to sport comparison. I think bringing that MLB draft, bringing that, that younger audience, if you will, that watching their friends and their family getting drafted. And then a day later, there's the home run derby to, continue to have their attention. And then you have the next day have the All-Star game. So I think that was great to have the MLB draft on its own day on Sunday night, obviously continuing on the next day, but starting on Sunday night and then continuing on with the next day home run derby and continuing to hold everybody's attention for the next couple of days.
Yeah, you do got a point with that, but there's something I would like to add to that. But before I add to that, I think this is an idea I had. Put back the All-Star weekend a couple of weeks and just rock out 4th of July. That's the weekend they should be playing at. Whatever week or weekend 4th of July lies on, have that be your All-Star weekend. I don't think baseball was played on any 4th of July game or no games were played on 4th of July, right? You have basketball, they play on Christmas Day and Martin Luther King Day. Football, they play on Thanksgiving. They own Thanksgiving. College football owns New Year's Day. This is their opportunity to just rock out with 4th of July. It's America's game, supposedly, and I think they could have just nailed it with that. But that would kind of push back the middle of the season a little too much. But I also think baseball should shorten the season a little bit. 162 games is wild. Maybe shorten it to 148, 152. It would make more sense to push back the All-Star weekend a week or two. And with that too, the futures game. No one knows about the futures game. This is for your AAA, AA All-Stars. It wasn't televised. That's my issue with that. It wasn't televised. It was, with a caveat, it was on Peacock streaming services.
Yeah.
So no one has Peacock. That is your least owned streaming service. And no one could watch it. So no one saw it that day. It was on a day where no baseball was played either. So they could have had an opportunity right there. They missed it. I think MLB Network replayed it the next day. So that's a missed opportunity. Yeah. College football and college basketball, you get these fans that are just gravitate to your prospects. And that's why I think they're a little bit more popular than baseball, because you get attracted to these prospects. You can follow them through their ranks. With amateur baseball, you don't get to gravitate toward these prospects. So it's a little harder to follow the game that way. And I think baseball is missing out on a huge opportunity with highlighting their futures game like they should have.
Right. Yeah, I can see, I can see them moving the All-Star game up to 4th of July. I think maybe potentially they can even maybe parlay the home run derby, whether the future game is right after it, obviously in a different location.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a day game, and then it's the futures game is from 2 to 5. Yeah, 2 to 5, and then you have you move it to the next stadium or whatever, and it's the home run derby.
Yeah, a double header. Imagine your futures guy playing the day before, and even maybe the future guys hanging around with the All-Stars in the clubhouse and stuff. Kind of see him hanging around and stuff. That'd be cool to see. The future, you see I just watched a documentary of Derek Jeter last night. I don't know if you saw that after the home run derby. It is killer. You should watch that.
I've been seeing clips of it. Yeah,
but yeah, man. Yeah, it was.
So it was
sick, man, to seeing him grow up in the ranks.
So to close out baseball, obviously one of the biggest, the most talented players, Juan Soto, has tentatively been put on the market. So it's caused a lot of uproar. I'm sure pretty much every team salivating at the mouth, dreaming of what type of package that, what makes sense for Juan Soto. So I'll let you start this one off. What team makes the most sense? What is your prediction for Juan Soto? Obviously, he's under team control. He's got arbitration for the next 2 years, and then he'll be a free agent. So what do you think? Where do you think he'll end up being?
Yeah, man, one of the biggest stars that will ever be traded within the next 20 years or the past 20 years. Once in a lifetime opportunity, man. I saw a comparison to Betts. Mookie Betts was like Durant getting traded on his last half of his career, and then Soto was pretty much grabbing Michael Jordan or LeBron right after his rookie contract. So that's a comparison I love. But there's 3 teams that come to mind. The Dodgers. Let's go.
Yep.
Yankees and Mariners. You're going to have to pay an astronomical amount, $500 million, and give up a lot of prospects and a couple of MLB players. And not a lot of farm systems have that cachet to spend and deplete. Like, you don't want to deplete your system entirely. And luckily with the Dodgers, they have a whole shitload of prospects, and they have a lot of young MLB players. And it's looking real good for the Dodgers. And I can see them picking him up for sure, man. It's perfect recipe for the Dodgers to pick up another scenario, kind of like Mookie Betts did. They did with Mookie Betts. The Mariners too. That's a dark horse. They paid out Robinson Cano. They have Julio Rodriguez. They want to be relevant, and they're good right now. But maybe they'll attach Strasburg or Corbin and kind of cheapen the price with the Dodgers or whoever trades for them.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers definitely have the prospects to put up a definitely formidable package, right? You got Diego Cartaya at the catcher. Obviously, they got Ruiz there, but I mean, you take the talent, right? Bobby Miller, Andy Pages, Miguel Vargas. So obviously, they have a lot of talent, and they have the money to pay Soto. Obviously, they're not worried about that. So I think, and honestly, in my all eyes, I think it's a two-legged race to start off. I think the Yankees, they might not have the prospects as much as the Dodgers, but they have enough. They're not a bottom dweller in terms of prospects. You see, I believe with Jason Dominguez, he had a 2-run shot. He went yaya at the Futures game, and some of their prospects are ascending. Those guys like Jason Dominguez, I forgot Andy V or whatever his name is. Those guys are ascending. That are climbing up the ladder for the top 100 prospects. So I think they can definitely come up with their own package of their own. So, and then of course we've seen, it's attractive destination in terms of fit. That right field porch is still short. Why it would make sense for Rizzo to be there, right? Why it made sense for, back in the day, the Mark Teixeiras, Paul O'Neill's, whatever the case may be, but left-hand, Bernie Williams, switch hitter. But yeah, left-handers, that short porch makes a lot of sense for Juan Soto to go over there and go yaya pretty much every other day. So Yankees and Dodgers definitely makes a ton of sense. So let's close up baseball.
He's definitely getting traded. He's definitely getting traded. There's no way he stays with the Nationals. And I just don't think they're the worst team in the MLB right now. And there's no reason to keep them at all for the next year. Maybe this deadline, they got to settle this deadline. So I'm just looking at my chops, man.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when, right? If they're going to do it this deadline, or are they going to wait to the offseason, to kind of really make sure they're fielding all offers. So NFL, obviously, we posted on the page that rookie training camp, first day of reporting was yesterday. I believe it was Bills and Raiders. So with that being said, let's talk about some of the exciting position battles. I think so. I'll start this time and talk to you about, some of my exciting battles from quarterback, running back, receiver, and tight end. I'm sure there'll be some overlap. Quarterback, obviously, you drafted Kenny Pickett in one of our leagues. We obviously have to see, what's going to happen with that. Is Kenny Pickett going to be the week 1 starter? Trubisky going to be the week 1 starter? Definitely some eyes on there as it impacts, maybe Najee Harris, maybe it impacts, Deontay Johnson, Claypool, and some of the other players. And then we have the quarterback situation from the newly traded Baker Mayfield, right? Obviously, we talked about that in the last podcast. They traded Baker Mayfield, but they didn't give up a lot, so it's not too much pressure to put him on the field, at least not week 1, right? So it'll be interesting to see, what happens with Sam Darnold and Baker. And then obviously they have Matt Corral, who probably won't be in consideration for week 1, but he's in the mix, certainly, right? If things someone were to get hurt of the other two and the other one was performing, not performing well. And then Geno Smith and Drew Lock to see, obviously, if you're in a super flex league, this makes sense. People might be listening to this or watching this and saying, who gives a fuck about Geno Smith and Drew Lock? But, it means something in terms of if you have Geno Smith, Drew Lock in a super flex league, you might, you're watching that position battle to see if you've got, your third starter or your fourth starter, whatever the case may be, right? So I'll let you go, and then I'll probably get into some couple other position battles.
Yeah, I wrote down the quarterback battles with the Panthers, Steelers, and Seattle. You touched on all of them, but I'll talk about a couple of receiver room battles. Number one receiver room battles I'm looking for is Green Bay. With the loss of Devontae Adams,
right.
Truth be told, it looks like shit, man. Green Bay room looks like shit. They drafted my boy, Christian Watson. I'll give him that. But besides that, man, he's a rookie, a little older rookie at that. But I don't know how that room is going to play out with Lazard or Mark Rogers. Cobb, what year is this? They got the rookie, or maybe the second year. So I'm just interested to see who's gonna come out top, and how is Aaron Rodgers gonna keep up his legacy of being a regular season warrior? Because I don't know.
Are you having doubts about Aaron Rodgers, or at least what he's going to be able to do with this receiving core?
Yeah,
I mean, it would be fair.
It might be rough.
Fair.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. I know a lot of people are hot on Aaron Jones, and I see the value. Don't get me wrong. I'm love Aaron Jones too, but he can only get so many targets. He's not Christian McCaffrey. He's good, but like.
Eventually, you're gonna have to push the ball down the field. You got to push the ball down the field.
Yeah, exactly. You got to push the ball down the field and get some first downs, pass it after the sticks. Right. And I wanted to see who's going to stick out of that room. No big names, but we'll see. And the next wide receiver room is your Dallas Cowboys. We got the number 1 and number 2 pretty much solidified with CeeDee Lamb and ACL. What's his name? Michael Gallup. Even the Gallup. Second and third, like that's a little unsolidified too. Michael Gallup is coming off the injury, so I'm interested to see with
Jalen Tolbert.
Moore, forgot his first name. Jalen Tolbert and
Jalen Tolbert might be number 2,
but we'll see. Kellen Moore loves to utilize the second and third and fourth receivers. Their offensive coordinator.
Right.
But that's a battle I'm looking forward to. Dak is going to want to sling it. They're going to want to get their money's worth out of Dak. So they're always a high potent offense. So Washington, Tolbert, maybe a fourth guy we haven't really talked about. Obviously, they got a tight end.
I think Dalton Schultz.
So that's what I'm keeping my eye on.
Will be the Dalton Schultz and Lamb will be 1-2 in terms of targets or options rather. And then obviously Michael Gallup when he gets healthy.
Yeah.
Jalen Tolbert, whatever we get from him, and then we'll see whatever we get out of James Washington out of the Steelers. So I think he'll probably start off at wide receiver 3 with Tolbert at wide receiver 2 until Gallup comes in week 2, week 3, whenever he comes in. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
What else you got?
For receivers, I have one more. You touch base, obviously, on the Packers, right? Part of the reason why I got AJ Dillon is for all the things you said. I think this is going to be a very more run heavy team than what people anticipate, right? Because of the weapons that they have. I think they're going to have a lot of success running the football. I think AJ Dillon there's going to be enough food on the plate for both of them to eat. In terms of AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. But in terms of wide receiver, another interesting kind of similar to the Packers is kind of a mixed match of what's going to happen, who's going to step up, and there's a rookie in there. Is Kansas City Chiefs, right? You got Sky Moore in there, small school, comes in with a lot of different, with his unique skill set. You've got Juju coming over for the Steelers. obviously he had a tremendous start being that number 2 next to Antonio Brown. And then when he became, or not became, because it seemed like he never became, but when he was asked to, or called upon to be number 1, he never could be that guy, right? So, but let's see what happens when he was with Big Ben. So let's see what happens when you put him with Patrick Mahomes. You got McCole Hardman, who's still there. So that would be an interesting receiver core to see what happens there. But and then in the running back situation, is you have several situations, right? You have the Bills, you have James Cook, Singletary. Zach Moss is there, but more than likely he's going to be fighting to be probably either second or third. But James Cook and Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is someone that had kind of like a Rashad Penny. Maybe not to that much effect, but kind of was a little bit hotter towards the end in playoffs. So I would think that they would start off with him, familiarity, and then kind of mix and match James Cook, fit him in terms of where his skill set fits in, pass catching ability and whatnot. And then the Buccaneers, right? You hear about Leonard Fournette. He's obviously always had weight issues, but he just shows up as this quarter ton of fun. Shows up at like 260 or something like that, and usually his playing weight is like 230, which you don't want to look too much into weight this early. Training camp hasn't even started. Typically, training camp, you have your 2-a-days, you have your your practice, and then you have your weight training and conditioning and whatnot. So
yeah,
he'll drop the weight, but it's obviously tougher, for someone who struggled with weight as they get older, right? To make weight and to be able to maneuver with that type of size. And then you have Rachaad White, what he's going to do in the mix. And then they have another younger back that has shown some, flash and Keyshawn Vaughn. So we'll see what happens there. And then the Niners backfield, obviously Elijah Mitchell is going to be that guy, but who's going to, this is Kyle Shanahan. He's not going to just use Elijah Mitchell. He's going to want to have another guy step up, at least one other guy. And that's not something that's just going to take away Elijah Mitchell. Go ahead, brother.
Fun fact, I don't think Kyle Shanahan's ever had a back-to-back, the same back-to-back leading rusher. So,
yeah. I mean, I certainly
keep an eye on. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure. I certainly think Elijah Mitchell is going to get the lion's share to begin with. I mean, what that means in terms of lion's shares in Kyle Shanahan's backfield week 1, we don't know. I think probably guaranteed maybe 15, 10, 15.
He's a smaller guy than you think too. That was his issue ending the season. He had a lot of injuries. He was being used like a bell cow, and he's not dressed up to be a bell cow. And the guy they picked up at LSU, he's a bigger guy, bulkier, smaller, not like shorter, stockier. So it'll be interesting to see how they use these guys. And then the forgotten guy, Sermon. And they got Jeff Wilson, so it's interesting to see. They got 4 guys.
Who's the guy? Davis.
NFL.
I forget the name. The guy who they drafted. It's like a hyphen name. Davis Price or Price David or what is it? The guy that they drafted this year.
Ty Davis Price.
There we go. Davis Price. Think what? Price. 3rd round, 4th round,
or TDP. Yeah, 3rd round TDP. I didn't like it at the time, but now it makes a little more sense to me, and they just love the value there. Just because I know Shanahan and the Niners, they can get these running backs at the 5th and 6th round without problem, and to invest in it in the 3rd didn't make quite sense to me. Thought more value could have been put into the cornerback spot or to the safety or maybe even a receiver. They got a receiver right after that, though, but. We'll see. I mean, then they have Mitchell, so I mean, it's going to be a run-heavy offense. So it makes sense to get some protection to Mitchell and don't have to use Debo as much in the backfield like they did in the playoffs.
Right, and then like you mentioned, Elijah Mitchell, he doesn't have that size, right? So from what I've seen, I haven't taken too much of a deep dive, but TDP is kind of like not a sledgehammer, but he's definitely north to south. Can get you those tough yards.
Exactly.
So yeah, and then the only thing else I had is this is maybe something to watch in terms of maybe dynasty or fantasy, kind of if you're in a larger league. But Cardinals tight end situation. Obviously they paid money. They traded for Zach Ertz, but Trey McBride, the number 1 tight end. I placed a small wager, stupid bet, Trey McBride to go 1st round. I believe he ended up going to 2nd round. I believe 2nd or 3rd. 2nd round.
Second.
I don't know. Yeah, 2nd. So, but it would be interesting. Obviously, there's going to be some vacated targets there early on with, D-Hop not being there. Obviously, they traded for Hollywood Brown, but it'd be interesting to see how they introduce McBride. Rookie tight ends typically don't transition or they don't get the level of opportunities or production early on. But it'll be interesting to see how they mix him integrate him into the offense. So, with that being said, let's close football with who do you got in terms of your biggest? Who do you think will be your biggest winners, players, and biggest losers at the end of training camp? What do you think we'll know or what we'll discover after training camp?
I'll go a couple winners. I'm going to go about my backyard, what I know best. I think Debo, he's going to get paid. Niners players always get paid during training camp, and he had a lot of unnecessary drama early in the year, but now it's time. He just showed up. He could have avoided all of that. He would have got paid eventually. So I think Debo is going to be a happy camper, man. Finally get his paycheck. And also, another guy to do is Bosa. I think Bosa will be paid astronomically, probably top 2 paid defensively. Probably will be maybe Watts average. We'll see. I think his brother played out his 4th year or 5th year, whatever his last year was. So he might take a page out of his brother's book and go into his last year and try to work out a deal that way. But yeah, just pretty much winners will be just players looking for their new contracts. A lot of contracts happen this time of the year. And then losers, I got no one in specific, but there's a lot of injuries that happen, man. There's a lot of injuries.
Yep.
Specifically running backs, even sometimes some quarterbacks. So you just got to keep an eye out for that, man. I know training camp is not what it used to be. They kind of scaled it down. It used to be like two a days and shit.
Run them to the ground,
man. It used to be a battle. Yeah.
Yeah. Now they're the real big song. It's like,
everything's on camera.
You got pads? Fuck that. Let's take a fucking let's find them. Let's take away their freaking practices from 3 years or next year or whatever the case. Some bullshit like that. They'll take away the number of practices you can have like next year, next training camp. It's fucking stupid.
Or even a draft pick or find them. There's cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're obviously gonna scale it down, but you just gotta keep an eye out for those injuries. And but there's always a competitive balance to be had too with going balls to the wall. So it's hard to balance that fine line. So that's what I got. Nothing. It was specific names, but it's just the general feel I got going into OTAs or training camp.
Right, and I love that you attacked it from a financial perspective in terms of players that Debo that haven't gotten paid that eventually should get paid. Right, what's going to happen? Ultimately with Lamar Jacksons and
Lamar
Kyler Murray's of the world. So I kind of took it from a different perspective. I attacked it from a fantasy perspective. And I got, I think, and this is your boy staying in your backyard. I got reassurance. Obviously, we know by now, but reassurance for your boy Trey Lance. I think the noise. I think eventually something's going to happen. With Jimmy G, where we already know damn well that Trey Lance is the guy. But I think from a value standpoint, his trade value for the guys that have him or drafted him, if you have your redraft early, or if you have dynasty leagues. I think his value is going to continue to go up as the season gets closer. Once Jimmy G just kind of goes the fuck away finally, and Trey Lance starts to get more reps. He gets his preseason. You get to see him, under the offense, under the first team offense, and every day, and that's all you have to worry about. I think his value is going to continue to skyrocket or go up, right? I think my losers are what we're going to find is the fantasy owners that had their drafts or, the dynasty drafts and drafted some of these rookie running backs outside of Breece Hall. For example, Kenneth Walker. As we can see, the news is already coming out there that it seems like Rashad Penny is going to be that guy. And a lot of people drafted, Kenneth Walker pretty high early on. And I know, obviously, draft capital is certainly something to be, said if you they spent second-round capital on them. But Seattle has shown that they don't give a fuck about that. They don't care about that. They'll play a seventh-round guy. They'll play a Chris Carson. If that's the guy who's going to be getting the job done, they don't give a shit about that. And there's a lot of talented running backs that will be coming out in the next 2 years as well. So if Kenneth Walker doesn't get it in year one, whatever opportunity if he doesn't capitalize on that, they might be moving on pretty quickly, and a lot of dynasty owners probably not want to hear that. But probably a lot of guys drafted guys like Kenneth Walker, Rashad White, James Cook early on, thinking that they might be the guy, at least Kenneth Walker. And I think as training camp, gets over, preseason, NFL season starts, I think they're going to be, sadly mistaken that Kenneth Walker's not going to be the guy. And it's not a high octane offense where there's going to be a lot of touchdowns to be had. So, with that being said, let's transition into.
Well, they're not going to be. I would say with the Seahawks, they're not going to be ahead that much too. So they're not going to be like running the ball, kind of feeding it to their guy. But yeah, we'll see. Good call.
Let's go to NBA. Kind of just riding that fantasy wave after all the drafts. Now we know your Kings got Keegan Murray. We'll touch on that. We talked about last week about the draft. Let's talk about after the draft, free agency. It's happening. What are the biggest winners and losers so far in terms of fantasy basketball? Or let me start off. I'll start off this time.
Go for it.
Let me go for it. Yeah, let me start off this time. My winner, because I think you'll appreciate the winner. Maybe loser you don't care about, but I think you'll appreciate my winner. And that's going to be Alfred Sengun from the Houston Rockets. You've been preaching about how you like them. Maybe for it was probably for outside regions, outside of fantasy, and he ended up being he's a decent fantasy player. But obviously with them trading Christian Wood. Yeah, they drafted, Jabari Smith, I believe, but yes, it's not going to be. The door is open for him to get more minutes. I believe he had somewhere between 20 to 25 minutes a game. That's certainly going to go up. Definitely see him, 30 to 35 minutes now that Christian Wood is gone. And I think even with those minutes, he was producing decent fantasy numbers. His efficiency was there. He was an analytical god, right? A guy that they would love. So. With Christian Wood gone, I definitely see Alperen Sengun being a sleeper. Maybe, I don't know, but are definitely rising up the draft boards. If not with preseason, as the season goes on. So that's my winner, and my loser for me is someone that typically would have been first round or maybe fringe, middle of fringe. It's Cat. It's Cat for me. I don't like Cat as a player, but I mean when you bring in. He gets a lot of second chance points, gets a lot of rebounds, all those types of things, right? Obviously, you bring in a guy like Rudy Gobert. That means Cat, which he can shoot the rock. He can do that. But obviously, that tells me that he's going to be playing further away from the basket, right? So that's going to obviously take away his rebound production, second chance points, all the maybe some fouls, some and one opportunities and things of that nature. So I definitely see his value not completely plummeting, but just dropping for sure with Rudy Gobert's presence there. So that's my one-on-one player for winners and losers. Who you got, my man?
I like it. You surprised me with Alperen Sengun. But yeah, I'm not worried about Jabari Smith. I mean, like they played two different positions really. So Jabari Smith's more like a sweeper. He needs someone to give him the ball to make his baskets, and Sengun's gonna have the ball more in his hands and kind of dish it around the circle and kind of be in control of that half court offense. Just like one of my risers in Sabonis. New Kings guy, I think he'll be able to control the rock more and kind of take that Halliburton role a bit. Kind of controlling the half-court offense. His assist numbers will probably go up a little bit. He might not score as much, but they're going to get their money's worth, and they're want to feature Sabonis a lot. So I don't know how much his 9 cat will go up that much, but it should feature an uptick in just about everything, and also the defensive level a little bit maybe too. But the next guy who I want to talk about is Halliburton, who he got traded for. Halliburton, man, going into the Indiana Pacers offense, being the featured guy on a shitty team, he's going to get the rock ample amounts of times. He's gonna be like the Luka Doncic of his offense, man. He's gonna just I love me some Halliburton, man. And he got a new guard in Ben Mathurin. He'll be able to facilitate whenever he wants. He's got free will to do whatever he wants in his offense. It's pretty much his offense for the next 2 or 3 years. They're going to feature the fuck out of him. So I'm excited for Halliburton. He's going to get all the numbers he can get, man. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a fringe all-star on a shitty team. It's going to be a shitty team. Don't get me wrong. A really, really shitty team, but he's going to have so much time to just work his numbers up. Offensively, defensively, he's still got a lot of ways to go. His steals will be there, but like his actual on-ball defense will be a little tough. But yeah, excited for Halliburton to get the uptick in fantasy. I wouldn't be surprised. I know I said this before if he's a first-round pick or definitely a second-round pick. I don't know. I might be a little too hyped on that.
Yeah. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get
and
to
the
it.
guy that took the biggest dip for me is who I loved last year was DeJounte Murray. He went to a terrible situation for fantasy-wise. Trae Young is going to have the ball a lot. He's going to be making a lot of assists, a lot of shots. His defense will be there for sure, but his offensive prowess will take a downtick a lot, I think. I'm interested to see how it will turn out in real life basketball, if they'll work together. DeJounte Murray's going to have to cover up a lot of Trae Young's mistakes defensively. And it's not like DeJounte Murray is just like offensive baller too. And Young will cover up a lot of Murray's offensive mistakes, when there is any.
Right.
So interested to see how that'll play out. But DeJounte Murray, he had that Halliburton role that the Pacers will give Halliburton. DeJounte Murray had that was first. So that's why I'm excited for Halliburton. And that's why I'm not excited for Murray. And one more guy, Jalen Brunson. He was the second creator with the Dallas Mavericks. It was Luka and Jalen Brunson, right? And now he goes to the Knicks, and they got Randall. They got R.J. Barrett, and they could potentially, depending who they trade for, it could be Donovan Mitchell. Jalen Brunson, he's definitely going to take a downtick a lot. He's probably one of my bigger losers of the draft as well, or of fantasy basketball as well. And then I'll talk about maybe 2 steals I'll have that could potentially be had in a second. Is Damian Lillard and PG-13. 2 guys that were injured for most of the year. They could possibly be had in a second. I don't know, but a lot of people will be down on them. Paul George and Damian Lillard. There's a lot of just like gray area with them. So I think they could be had in a second maybe. So that's just some names. I don't know if you heard I lost you for a little bit, but I talked I talked about some first round guys that could be had in the second, that are even like Halliburton could be had in the first.
Yeah, so I did lose connection. So I'll just mention one guy that I think that could sneak into the first round. That wasn't in the first round last year, and I might be overlap. Correct me if I overlapped you, but I don't know if you talked about LaMelo Ball.
No.
Yeah, LaMelo Ball, a guy that can fill in terms of 9-cat that can completely fill the stats, right? Obviously, we know what's going on with your boy Bridges. His dumb ass got into some trouble.
Not my boy no more.
Yeah, that's your boy, motherfucker. Yeah, he's a guy that obviously blew it. So there's obviously going to be more opportunities for LaMelo Ball. And we've seen that he's continued to get better just across the board, points, rebounds, assists. I don't even know if he's 21 yet. I think he's entering his year 21. If he is 21, he just turned 21. So this is a guy who, in terms of fantasy, I mean, he's getting into his prime. I mean, not getting to his prime, but he's getting into that top, upper echelon in terms of 9-cat rebounds, assists. He can shoot the 3. As you can see, he can get hot from 3, and he'll get those 3-pointers. So he'll cover their points, defense. He'll get some steals too. I mean, I think this is definitely someone who could be a fringe first-round talent in terms of 9-cat fantasy basketball next year. So let's wrap up basketball with Keegan. So talk to me about Keegan. Talk to me about Keegan Murray and how juiced you are and how wet you get about Keegan Murray at night.
Extremely wet. I got to sleep with a diaper on nowadays. It's a towel underneath the diaper. And then,
make sure you got the overnight diaper.
The extra strength adult depends. So yeah, I forgot to tell you. I was kind of kidding about Keegan MVP at the end, but I will talk about him and kind of wing it. I was a little down on him. I didn't see the playmaking ability that he showed in the summer league, and he's been playmaking a lot for himself, not so much for others. I don't think that will come yet. He's not much of a dribbler, but the way he could like contort his body, going and scoring up the middle, it's something else. I didn't see I didn't see that in his Iowa tape, and I was wrong. I'll admit I was wrong. He's going to be a good third scoring option and potentially replace Harrison Barnes. He was clear head and shoulders above anyone else in the summer league. So I'm excited to see what the kid's got in Keegan Murray. He's that perfect stretch forward, kind of I wouldn't call him a small forward, but stretch forward. They got something there. They got something. I don't know if he'll be a rookie of the year just because you won't have the opportunity that Paulo has. Actually, I will lock it down that Paulo will be a rookie of the year for sure. I'll put $10,000 on Paulo.
Oh, yeah.
Unless Fox gets hurt, Sabonis gets hurt, Keegan's he's a good scorer, great scorer. He
can build the stats. Yeah,
he reminds me a lot of it's I don't know, it's a weird comparison, but like Peja in a weird way, or Rashard Lewis. They just turn the corner and they kind of they go in one straight line. They're not gonna like get around you in a crazy way, but he has that. He could drop his shoulder, kind of get in there. But yeah, Keegan, he showed me a lot, and I'll take the L. I was unexcited. It's not like I hated the Keegan pick at 4. I just wish they would have traded back and got more value because I knew their team sucked so bad that they should have got an extra pick, and I was a little bit more excited to get Mathurin or Daniels.
Right.
I had Murray in my top 7, 8, but here we are. Let's go Keegan.
Yeah, I'm sure they did their due diligence. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. They did their due diligence, and ultimately they liked Keegan enough where they didn't want to give the offers.
Rule number 1: never give the Kings the benefit of the doubt. Rule number 1.
I won't then. All right, we'll not give the Kings benefit of the doubt. So Keegan Murray, who is actually a year older than LaMelo Ball. Should be. He definitely. I think he'll be a contributor to them making the playoffs and breaking that terrible streak of not making the playoffs. Let's go to college football. We're at 47 minutes. Let's go to college football, and probably the most talked about, or will be. The most talked about and the biggest name coming out of college football in quite some time. Archie Manning making this decision to go to the University of Texas. What are your thoughts on that? Was that the right call? Do you give a damn?
I do give a damn. I love football. I love college football. I used to like Texas a lot back in the day.
Texas.
My favorite game ever in college football was Texas versus USC. I still remember watching that game. You're a hardcore USC fan, huh? Forgot about that.
Yeah, man, that broke my heart.
I was a huge. I was a hardcore Vince Young fan. And I was a huge Reggie Bush fan. I get how they don't like each other now, but it's good for college football. I love that he picked Texas. I hate that he took the easy route and picked Alabama or LSU or Georgia. This tells me there was zero influence on his decision. It was his own decision, kind of how he picked Ole Miss and Peyton picked Tennessee. And this is a lot about Sarkisian, that he's invested in him and that he's not going anywhere for the next 4 years. Sarkisian hasn't showed me that much overall. He did take Tua and Mac to the NFL and made them distributors. So I don't know how much of a playmaker Archie will be. But I'll tell you this, it will be nearly impossible for Archie to live up to the hype that he's getting right now. And I almost feel bad for the kid. There's only a couple players that live up to the hype that they've been getting since they were 14, 13 years old, which was LeBron and Tiger Woods. A lot of kids don't. And it's not their fault. It's the fucking public. It's everyone else talking about them. It's everyone else hyping them up. So you feel bad for them, and it's not their fault at all. They're just playing football and stuff, and people just talk words and spew their bullshit and try to hype them up. So
I'll give you one more from a different sport. I don't think you mentioned baseball, but Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. was that guy since he was a little, like maybe, I don't know, 10 years old. Continued to get better. Top athlete. I think it was a two-sport athlete. Obviously his call. The whole. I think we talked about this in one of the pods where his dad was like, "Hey," his parents were like, "Hey, unless you get drafted #1 overall, your ass is going to college. No ifs and buts about it." Obviously, he went #1 overall, climbed up the ranks, and ended up playing with his father, and he just, he fit the bill, and he met those high expectations. But
it's wild to live up to those expectations. But that what makes them like the GOATs when they do, because it takes a different breed to do that. And it's a step in the right direction for Texas and college football in a whole. It brings more popularity to the sport. Alabama's always be popular. I feel like Texas, they're super popular no matter what, they be popular. But I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've probably been off a little bit, but I feel like they're more fair weather fans, kind of like California sports, California college sports.
Your mouth.
They're like, when they're good, we hype them up, and that's just college. That's just California college sports. You know? So I'm excited for college football. It's a step in the right direction. I'm glad he declared early, so more recruits can follow him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the one thing, like you mentioned, I'm glad that he didn't pick an easy route like a Alabama or something like that, and he picked a different school than his brothers, right? He picked his own route, as the Mannings continued to do, right? And then for those people that that wanted to say that, oh well, it's not the SEC. Well, it will be the SEC when he gets there. Texas will be SEC in 2025, and obviously Archie is 16 right now, so he will be playing in the SEC. So, with that being said, let's talk about the NIL deals.
You want to talk about the Pac-12 and the SEC?
Yeah, I have that too.
Oh,
I have that too. We can talk about that. Let's go USC and UCLA moving to the Big Ten. So my thoughts on that is as a USC fan, and I would imagine as a UCLA fan, this would be big. At the bare minimum, from a competitive standpoint, and trying to get into any of these bowl games, it will be an uptick for sure. But I mean, the Big Ten is great, right? But it's not like we're entering the SEC. That's a little different. But in terms of just recruits and being able to tell, going into living rooms and tell these kids that, hey, you can make money off your likeness and come to UCLA, come to USC, come to LA, where you could probably make the most out of your likeness in LA and still play some of these big schools on the regular. So I think this is obviously a huge win for USC and UCLA, and it's not like a huge jump in where it's going to be a huge adjustment. Again, I think Big Ten is great, but obviously the talent to me it's still better in the SEC. That's just a given. But yeah, I like it. I like it for USC. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that move?
I was shocked by it. I'm not surprised. It makes sense. Follow the money, just like everywhere else in the world. Always follow the money. It's
cash rules everything around you.
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It makes sense to the schools, to the athletes. As a West Coast football fan or West Coast sports fan, it's gonna be weird, but hey, I'm for it, man. It just makes sense. It's gonna be a weird growth going forward for how these conferences will play out. But I'm all about it. But yeah, at the end of the day, Pac-12 fucked up their TV deal, and they just needed more money. And USC and UCLA, it was a sink or swim situation. They're not going to sink down with the Pac-10 now. You got to adapt. You gotta get your life raft when you see one. And they saw one. They said, "Fuck y'all, I'm out. Catch you bitches later."
Yeah, deuces.
And they're gonna swim in their money a little bit. So I like this move. It's gonna be weird playing Ohio State, Michigan, but it's gonna do the recruits and the fans a better product when they beat them instead of like Oregon State and Oregon State and Arizona State or something like that.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird. Like you see USC Rutgers at like 9 a.m.
And well, Rutgers that's like the forgotten child.
Yeah, that's gonna be weird. Like a 9 a.m. game against Rutgers.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? But yeah, so let's finish up. We're almost at the hour mark. Let's finish up with the NIL deal. Lane Kiffin came out, his recent quote, basically in a nutshell, in a vacuum, he's comparing the NIL deal to baseball money, right? And baseball, or at least the baseball format in which he's saying that typically now the powerhouses, the teams with higher payroll that are able to give these players an opportunity to make to lucrative deals and things of that nature are ultimately going to be the teams that are going to be the mainstay in college playoffs or in competition, right? And it's kind of hard to navigate away from that or to kind of combat that, right? Because I mean, now that you got a USC, UCLA, or now you got these big schools, not like even LA is obviously glamour, but Michigan, with Jordan and Michigan State or all these big schools, Ohio State, Alabama, we know what Alabama can present, right? Now that they can make money off of their likeness, how can these smaller schools compete? How can they tell what are you going to do? Like, hey kid, don't pick Alabama just to go to this other school where you won't have access. Well, let me say this. I would say this. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the other schools will get opportunities. They can offer opportunities to start players that, obviously it's going to be stiff competition going to Alabama. I don't fucking know. I'm trying to figure out a loophole where they can attract, other talent, top talent.
It sucks, but I mean, that's just life isn't fair. And it's not like these small schools. It's not like these small schools had a chance at winning the national championship either way.
Yeah.
It does suck. I love them all for the athletes and students making their money. But there just needs to be a little more rules, I think. Right now, these past couple of years, I think this is like 2 weeks ago was the 1 year anniversary of the NIL becoming official. So there's got to be more guidelines, more rules, more like maybe like a salary cap or something like that. Because right now it's the Wild West. It's just fucking. One thing that Lane Kiffin said that kind of like drew my attention is so the schools aren't giving the money to the athletes or students. There's like a different organization. It's called the Collective or something else. And the Collective is something else, and they're separate from the school, but they still give athletes money. But the coaches don't really say, they don't have a say in who to give what athlete what money. And so down the road, what if like your top paid athlete isn't getting playing time? Like is then the boosters going to be like, hey, I paid this guy $2 million and you're not playing him? And the coach is like, oh, this guy sucks. Like, I mean, he's good, he's talented, but his attitude sucks and he cussed me out earlier. I'm not gonna play this guy. And then there's this weird just drama, and so there's gonna be a lot of weirdness, a lot of bullshit,
a lot of kinks to be worked out for sure.
Yeah, a lot of kinks to be working out. It's gonna shit will get straightened out in the next year or 2, 3 years. But right now it's a lot of murky water, unknown territory. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But I'm all for the money going around. Fuck it, it's not my money. That's what I say. But it's gonna be a dog-eat-dog world, man. It's gonna be a dog-eat-dog world, or probably the stronger will float to the top, and then the weaker will kind of sink to the bottom. But I'm excited for college football. That's all I know.
Yeah, for sure, man.
The renewal of Texas, the renewal of USC, the renewal of UCLA, Oklahoma. I'm not like a huge Oklahoma fan, but they're more relevant going to the SEC. It'll be interesting to see where the conference future go. If there'll be more of a 2-conference battle like the NFL or NBA, East versus West, AFC versus NFC. That's where it's looking like it's going. It could be interesting. We'll see.
For sure. So let's wrap up. We'll take a look at what we've talked about and maybe some things that can carry over to next week's pod. But we'll stop it here. Obviously, we touched on college football, NBA, NFL. And obviously MLB is All-Star Week, right? So let's take some time. The MLB All-Star Game starts here in about 50 minutes to an hour. I told you that I have the under 7.5 at plus 115, I believe. So I'll be watching. I'll have a stake, a dog in the fight. So if you will, once again, if you're listening on YouTube, definitely hit that subscribe button. Definitely hit that like button. It helps with the algorithm to push our content out there. So hit that subscribe and like button. And thank you guys for listening in. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Thank you guys for listening in. Definitely follow us as well there as well. Continue to watch the journey, listen to the journey. And thank you guys for supporting us. If you're not following us on Instagram, the handle's right there, IG at @AverageJoes_sports. So this is Don. This is Albert from lovely Los Angeles, California, and Sacramento, California. Without further ado,